viewers, listeners, and attendants of our podcast. My name is Alex.
And my name is Atle.
And this is the
Ace Commander podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We totally nailed it. That was
Nailed
wonderful.
it. That's you guys didn't hear it, but we tried that a few times and it didn't work quite as well as that one.
The practice paid off.
Yeah.
So, we wanted to do a quick introduction. And so this podcast, essentially, we want to spread a little bit of knowledge. So some basic topics, things that have helped us enhance our lives, things that we wish that we knew when we were teenagers and younger kids. So today's episode is about exercise. So we want to talk a little bit about the benefits of exercise, how you can get into it if you don't regularly exercise, let's begin. So
just a point though, we don't normally talk about exercise under these conditions. We just thought it would be a good starting off point.
Exactly. So exercise is something that we've kind of incorporated into our everyday lives, and I think it's probably the number one thing that's enhanced my life.
A cornerstone of like where we've where we begun and where we are now, and we probably wouldn't have made the same kind of strides without it.
Well, and I don't think that we're saying anything mind blowing by telling you exercise is good for you. I mean, you've heard it everywhere, right? It's we wanted to get into a little bit of the nuance sort of stuff, and so a lot of people have trouble getting motivated to exercise. So if someone were to ask you, Atle, what can I do to motivate myself to start to exercise, how would you even begin to answer that question?
Yeah, well, if they said motivate, I would probably think that they were from Australia, and not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just like, it sounds like Vegemite. Well, I mean, I get asked this a lot anyways, so it wouldn't be really hard for me to answer this question. For a lot of people, it's just the mindset for the most part.
Right.
They think that it's difficult when it really isn't. You just have to put aside like a few minutes a day, like literally like 10, 15 minutes just to get started. And if you really like your results, you can go from there.
The thing that I've told a lot of people who are trying to get into exercising on a regular basis, and I'm not going to pretend like we're two just jacked dudes. You can't see us because we don't have a camera in here, but I would say we're just moderately fit, and we see exercise as something that has enhanced our daily lives, right?
Yeah.
What I would tell somebody that is trying to get started with exercise, that has been has done nothing for the past few months, maybe has have a little extra poundage, just go on a walk every day. Do something for 15 minutes. Just get out in the sun. There are a lot of reasons that I think that's beneficial. But
besides from sleep habits and vitamin D and a list of other reasons.
It's there are a lot of ways to lose weight. I think that focusing on your diet and exercise are the two main things. That's what you'll hear over and over again: diet, exercise. But start off with something small. I mean, take baby steps.
Yeah. We didn't start off small.
No, we didn't. And that's a funny story for another time. But we went really hard when we started lifting together. We used to go for an hour and a half, 2 hours at a time. Sometimes it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I would credit pre-workout with that. The amount of absolutely.
Mind you, we were relatively busy individuals back then, so it's not like we had time to spare or anything. We just really liked the rush of deadlifting 400 pounds.
Exactly. So it's just feeling like an absolute gorilla. Like you're just a huge piece of man meat. I mean, that's an awesome feeling. I would say that we got addicted to exercise at one point in time, and it was almost like, of course, it's a positive addiction. It's kind of like someone who's addicted to skydiving or these sort of extreme sports. It's because they're addicted to the adrenaline rush, right? So you probably heard the term runner's high before.
Right.
And that's it's kind of just this rush of dopamine that you get after finishing a run. And your body's miserable and you're wheezing and heaving, but you feel good afterwards. You feel like you've achieved something. I think that having some sort of daily routine, something that counts as exercise, as a very regular, almost religious thing, gives you a lot of fulfillment, because you have some sort of discipline to help you with your everyday life, right? It helps your brain function better. Even just walking helps you burn calories and burn fat. It's technically an aerobic exercise. It's really good for you.
I mean, going back to the whole religious thing, that's kind of a big part of what kept us going consistently, and that's a huge part of fitness in general, is just consistency. Like you could just be, switching out soda for water, or just walking in the sun, like you said, for a few minutes a day, and that alone you'll see results. Exactly. You don't even really have to change anything necessarily about your lifestyle besides from like those two things, and you'll see results after time.
There's a huge benefit to just getting sunlight too. So if you just sat out in the sun, and we are talking about exercise, but a kind of a small tangent here, your body makes serotonin, which is a very important neurotransmitter, brain chemical, when you are out in the sun.
Science.
Mr. Oh yeah, I know I'm throwing out some $10 words here, but basically, to put it as simply as possible, like if I was explaining this to a 5-year-old, being in the sun makes you feel good.
Right.
It's easy. It's a straightforward thing. And you might ask, like, what do you do in the winter? You can still get sun in the winter.
Yeah.
It's just harder. It's not as direct. It's
depending
on
where you live, I guess.
yeah.
If any of our listeners are from like Antarctica,
like really northern Canada, I mean, good luck going outside when you can't even open your door. There's so much snow.
Right.
We're not in a state where that's a problem. We're not in a country where that's a problem. So we can get plenty of sun. We make sure we're getting our vitamin D, I think it is, vitamin D and serotonin, all that good stuff, so to make our brains feel good.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the idea that you can, you get your blood pumping more. It means that more oxygen goes to your brain. It makes you think more clearly. You could go on a whole rant about the benefits of exercise just in general. But what about for people who are just barely starting? What reasons are there to motivate someone to get started?
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I was getting to before I got on this rant.
It was a tangent of all tangents.
Yeah, for us, it was kind of, like I said, almost a religious thing. And we created this godlike character called the Ace Commander, which is what we named the the podcast after.
Right.
And he just, smiled down upon us whenever we lifted. And the gym was the church, and the bench was the confession,
Yeah, I think, to be honest, there's a lot to unpack there psychologically for us at that time. But, we basically, as he put it, we came up with this image of the perfect man, the ultimate dude, the hero, right?
Yeah.
And we tried
like
to
the
be
alpha of all alphas.
Exactly, and not to talk about like alpha males and beta males. That's a conversation for another day, definitely, because we could rant about that. But we had this kind of image for ourselves that was based off of this sort of very manly man. What aspects did this guy have that we didn't at the time, and what should we strive for, right? And so we just saw this huge muscle man. We had some other influencers like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Of course.
Yeah.
There are a ton of famous and huge people. Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, who is wildly successful in multiple different fields in his life.
Yeah,
we can look up to someone like
you,
that.
But like I grew up with Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Terminator movies. Are you kidding me? I grew up on those.
Yeah.
They were incredible. They're really, really well done.
So it's pretty easy to kind of go off of that and use that as an inspiration for sure.
So, the one thing that we were working on at the time, it was as Atle put it, a spiritual experience, because we had a goal, right? So we had this goal body that might have been unachievable. I mean, I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I'll be like Arnold in his prime, but I can look at it and say, this is something to strive for, and it's going to give me something to go to the gym for every single day. So I think something that is helpful for someone who's starting out is having a goal, having actual goals. So what do you want to achieve? You want to have a certain number come up on the scale. You want to look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. You want to be a huge muscle man. Do you want to have Do you want to have do you want to just be lean and thin and functional? What is it that you actually want out of fitness, and why are you doing it? So I think that the best type of motivation is to have a really consistent goal, so that you have something to work for every single day.
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. Like what you were saying before, it wasn't necessarily the whole idea of having, you know, the physique of Arnold in his prime was unattainable. It was just, that was kind of the goal that we set for ourselves. And even if we didn't get to that goal, we still, that gold's Jeremy.
Yeah.
Going harking back to the old days before Vasa.
Oh god.
Anyways, that goal wasn't necessarily like the point of it. And a lot of people, I think that's the main deterrent for them to get into fitness in general, is that they feel like they have like this goal body that they have in mind that they want to achieve. And if they don't reach that in a certain amount of time, then they just give up.
Right.
And that's really depressing, because that's not necessarily the point. The point is to be healthy and to just feel good about yourself.
Exactly.
And even if you don't achieve this goal body, you are still becoming a better version of yourself. And that's a little bit more of a philosophical statement, but at the same time, it still rings true, and it rings true for everybody. A lot of the times when you see like an actor or an actress who has like this amazing body on, like, you know, a Marvel movie or something, for a lot of people that seems kind of daunting to try to get the huge arms like like Chris Hemsworth from Thor, and
right.
That's not super hard, because really it's just the whole consistency thing that we're talking about. Like for Chris, he probably just did that. He worked on his arms a lot, because he already had a good physique to begin with, so he didn't really have to, you know, work on the rest of it too much. He probably just had to, you know, do a bit of conditioning every now and then to keep up with the rest of his body, and then mostly work on his arms to get like these massive Thor arms.
Big pythons. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, another point that I want to make. So having a goal body and not being discouraged when you don't get there, right? So we've talked about this already. Also, don't make excuses for yourself. So, you know, it's really easy to kind of just dismiss exercise in general because, let's say, your ankle hurts or your knee hurts. Well, you know, you can do a whole lot of exercise.
I get the knees a lot.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Yeah. So, you know, just because you are in pain or you are sore or maybe your back hurts, well, find something that works for you. So let's say you have some upper back pain, lower back pain, or maybe you have a shoulder injury. Well, you can still, you know, hit the bike or something every other day. You know how cheap those little like bicycle machines that you can sit in your living room are? They're really cheap. I think I could buy one for like $40-$50.
Yeah, here in Utah we have this thing called Deseret Industries, which is the equivalent of the Salvation Army for Mormons, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So there they always have like workout equipment and stuff that, you know, is like hand-me-downs that people just donated. And I've seen like more workout bikes in that one location that is next to where I live than I have ever seen in any gym.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and they're
all like $20 or something.
And not to rip on that. I mean, you know, you look at it and you're like, you look at a piece of equipment and say that's $20. Well, it's still a really solid workout. Have you ever ridden hard on a bicycle for even 30 minutes or an hour? And
dude, I think I would die.
Yeah,
like that's a lot.
You end up having spaghetti noodle legs afterwards, but you can feel really good about yourself. I mean, hell, you could watch TV while on your exercise bike, or play video games while you're on your exercise bike, and it's just a really efficient way to spend your time.
What I do, and I really enjoy it, is I have a punching bag down in my office, and all I really do is just like a couple times a week, I just, you know, go to town on that punching bag for, you know, 10-15 minutes maybe, and some days not even that. And that's more than enough for me. And maybe like I have a few dumbbells that I, you know, to pump a little bit.
Yeah, pump the muscles a little. That is another really great idea for exercise and for becoming more confident, which I do want to talk a little bit more with you about.
But mostly that was just more of a time thing, because I'm getting busier, and like now I can only really do like 30-minute workouts, which, like we said before, 4-hour workouts was the norm back in the day, and now it's like only 30 minutes, which is still more than enough time to get you know, like nice and fit. Like most HIIT workouts are only like 15, maybe 20 minutes, and that's like really hard. I've tried those HIIT workouts, and they're like, I don't consider myself a weak or stamina deficient individual, and those are already like super difficult for me.
For anyone listening right now, if you want to get into a type of workout that is really quick, really intense, burns fat for you passively throughout the day, it's HIIT training, high intensity interval training. Is that a redundancy? HIIT training, because it's high intensity interval training.
I mean,
whatever, man.
If you're doing it for like punching bag, maybe it kind of works.
But HIIT training, and it's something that if you're interested in a type of exercise that you can get done quickly in a busy day, that's definitely something that I would recommend checking out. It's going to be miserable. You're going to be sore, but you are
at least at first.
You're done in like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I was doing HIIT training for months when I got here, because I was just like, I was not so motivated to work out. It was just a quick like, okay, well, I'll do some lunge jumps, push-ups, some squat jumps, and then I'll do some burpees, and I'm good. It's so easy, but you still feel really great afterwards. Exercise doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to have a really anal schedule. You don't have to have your Mondays biceps and back day, Tuesday is chest and tris. You don't really need to do that. You just do thing. Especially when you're starting out, just do something so that your body's being trained. Make sure you're doing whatever movement you're doing correctly, so you don't jack yourself up. And that's all you really need to do. I'd recommend, again, 15 minutes of exercise, whatever it is, even if it's just walking.
Yeah, it's more than enough. Like,
it's more than enough.
I mean, as long as you get your doctors tell you, as long as you get your heart rate up, and as long as you like perspirate even just a little bit, then that's good. Like, legitimately by medical standards, that's good.
Yeah, and of course, we talked a little bit earlier about having goals, and so we were doing a lot of bodybuilding type of stuff so that we could become more like Arnold. So our routine was more based on that, but there are so many different goals that you might be going for. Let's say you just want to lose weight. Well, maybe you want to get into cardio or HIIT training. So you go on long runs, or you do a quick 15 minutes HIIT workout. If you want to be swole, if you want to be huge, then you do more bodybuilding type of stuff. You isolate your muscles as much as you can, and you eat a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
a lot. And then there are the people out there who want to exercise more for function, and so they'll do more full body work. They'll do more compound lifts. A compound lift is just a lift that takes more than one muscle. So it makes your body understand how to work well with itself. If you want to be more flexible, you could do like yoga. Make sure you're stretching every day. Yoga is actually really good for you, and I think highly underrated.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, especially here in Utah, because you see like yoga bars. I don't want to call them yoga bars, but that's kind of a funny name that I thought of for it, because they're just like on every street corner you see like a little yoga place.
Oh yeah, they're all over the place. There's like this there's goat yoga in Utah too, which like the entire premise is that you're doing yoga and there are little baby goats running around everywhere, like climbing on people. I didn't understand the appeal personally.
I mean, I would try it. Yeah,
I would give it a go. It's I just like animals. I'm not like I don't like animals enough that I'd be vegan, but I like them enough. Like,
I mean, if you lift, you kind of have to. I mean, you don't have to eat meat. I mean, there's what's his name?
Yeah, what was that guy's name? He was a vegan bodybuilder.
Well, I know that there's a few vegan bodybuilders out there, but there's one that I have in mind. His nickname is Harry Squatter. I saw him a few times on YouTube, and this guy is insane. Like, he did a Olympic weightlifting, which mostly just like powerlifting stuff.
Right.
I mean, from what he said, he did a little bit of just like bodybuilding, just to have a bit of hypertrophy, which is just much muscle growth, just so he can lift more.
Right.
Which the guy could already lift a lot even back when he was smaller. Which is kind of funny how that's how powerlifting works. It's just kind of like a barrier in your brain that you have to get over, and you surprise yourself by how much you can actually lift.
That way. A lot of it, as far as powerlifting goes, a lot of it seems to be technique. We used to do a lot of powerlifting back in the day, and it was really good to get our bodies functioning well with themselves. But we never got to the point where we were like ridiculously strong powerlifters, because I think there's some.
I don't know. You've surprised me.
Well, thank you very much. Sure. This is not the stroke each other's egos podcast. But I do appreciate the compliment. We did get to the point where we were lifting quite a bit, but some of these guys have this technique down so well. They're female.
That's most of it is. Just the technique,
absolutely.
For sure.
Some female powerlifters. There was this woman that I watched that was powerlifting like 430 pounds, or power cleaning, 430 something pounds, and I was lucky to get above a 200.
Yeah.
No, I look at it and I just think, like, how did you get so ridiculously strong? There are these guys like, was it Brian Shaw, with the guy who deadlifts over 1,000 pounds?
Yeah.
Some of these huge, just stocky dudes that can deadlift over 1,000 pounds. It's disgusting.
They could like deadlift a vehicle.
Like we were getting excited when we were breaking 300s on deadlift, and we're like, oh yeah, that's like, dude, that's 3 plates. Can you believe that? We got really excited about that. Not, of course, you shouldn't compare your progress with anyone who's a professional.
That's just setting yourself up for failure, because
I'm not gonna slap on 600 pounds or 700 pounds just because I saw Brian Shaw, like a world-class deadlifter, doing it. I'm not nearly as big as that guy. I don't eat 5,000 calories a day like that guy. I'm not a stocky dude. I don't think either of us are. Pretty like thin, especially compared to these huge muscle mountain type of people. So, but yeah, as far as exercise goes, I think that a lot of the fulfillment comes from the discipline that you have.
Yeah.
So
that's like 90% of it.
Absolutely.
Is the discipline. Because that you can take that same discipline and apply it to literally anything else in your life.
Yeah.
And I think that's like probably, like, mentally speaking, that's the biggest attribute of lifting, is the discipline, especially if you keep on a very nice regimen. It doesn't have to be like incredibly strict or anything, but just keeping on a reasonably often regimen.
Right. So you just have to lift regularly is all.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to have a schedule. If you just say, hey, I want to lift 2 times this week. Well, that's awesome. That's fantastic. It's a great way to start. There are a lot of reasons that I think that lifting in particular is a really great way to exercise. So if you do have a cheap gym around you, it's like $10 a month subscription. You should definitely check it out. I think that lifting should be done by everybody, women included. All men, all young men, teenagers, pretty much anybody can lift. You just have to make sure that you have someone that can check on you to make sure that your form is good. So specifically with guys, though, all of you guys out there, a really great way to make you feel more manly, and I say that because lifting is a really great way to release testosterone into your body.
Oh yeah, and especially doing squats.
Especially doing squats. I mean, okay, so any of you out there, try going and doing like just a moderately heavy squat routine, and tell me you don't feel more like a beast afterwards. The next day, your all of that testosterone has been flowing in your body, which just sits in your muscles unless you don't use it. You feel more confident, you feel more attractive. Confidence makes you way more attractive, and that's something that exercise does for you, just because you have the discipline to get out there and do something every once in a while. So you can gather a lot of confidence and a lot of manly energy. I'm doing air quotes here, manly energy, by doing a martial art too. It's a great way to discipline yourself. It's a great way to channel your beastish energy. How else would you put that? What would you call that?
I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
Beastish energy. Yeah.
There's we all got it. We especially guys out there can agree with me here, but
I don't know. I know some pretty beastie women out there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Tear my head off.
So I think that. So I mean specifically males, some ladies too, are very aggressive, and I have a few cousins who were just absolute monsters as children, and I mean like they would just break things. One of them would go to the hospital every single month because they got bumped on the head, like going to go get stitches. Their parents had this great idea that maybe they should get into boxing or MMA classes. They started going regularly to MMA classes, and they got really disciplined. They calmed right down. They had a place to exert their aggression, to let that out in a way that is constructive and healthy. Another reason why I think that lifting is great, because it's a good way to channel that energy, all of that aggressive energy into something that is productive. It's almost like you're pumping all of that anger straight into your muscles, and that's a secret hypertrophy.
Don't feel bad about your muscles either. They love it. They love
absolutely.
the aggression.
Yeah. So I mean, and the discipline aspect is great. It's honestly, one thing that I think was the most impactful realization that I've had is that it's not so much the goal that you have. It's more the journey. So as you're getting better habits, as you are doing better things with your body day by day and slowly getting better, you feel a real sense of fulfillment. And I think that too many people seek this sort of like nebulous sense of happiness rather than real fulfillment, right?
No, a lot of people get into fitness with like these really undefined goals, and you really have to define your goals, not just with lifting but with like literally anything, but that's another discussion. For lifting specifically, if you define your goal, then it'll be so much easier reaching it, or at least getting close to it. I mean, just define your goal, define your routine, and everything else just kind of falls into place from there.
Exactly.
Especially if you're consistent.
So you just have to have an idea of where you're going. And I did say earlier that you don't need to have some like really rigid and anal schedule to succeed. You can just say you can commit to doing 3 workouts a week whenever you're available. So just say maybe Monday, Wednesday, Sunday, this week I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do something for 15 minutes. If your goal is to just get used to exercising and just to build a habit, that's a great place to start. You don't have to say, I want to be Arnold and that's my goal, because you're not going to reach that immediately, of course. But when you're first starting out, you can just commit to doing something regularly and to become more disciplined. Even though that itself is kind of a vague goal, just getting into a habit, so making exercising a habit is a great place to start.
Yeah.
And especially for those who are just getting into exercising, or who haven't been told that you should be exercising no matter what, in some way, shape, or form. And that might be a little bit opinionated of me, but I have had periods of my life where I was not exercising at all, and I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable, and this has been getting into a habit of exercising is the number one most impactful habit that I have made in my life. Absolutely.
Oh, and like for me too, definitely. Back when I was a little overweight, before we started lifting, I had a lot of like acid problems with my digestive system, like like acid reflux and stuff. And I found out that one of the big issues with acid reflux, especially, I don't know about like most other issues. This is just from experience. My doctor let me know that one of the big contributors is excess body fat for acid reflux. I had no idea that blew my mind. I was like, oh, well, I guess I should do something about that, because acid reflux sucks, especially if you're trying to sleep and you work in the morning and then you just wake up with the feeling that you have hell churning in your throat, and it's just not good.
That sounds terrible.
And then I remember, I mean, like I have a slip disc. That's always been kind of an issue, and it probably, like, for the most part always will be, even though there are movements and different stretches and yoga positions and stuff that you can do to help with like slip disc injuries and whatnot. But one of the reasons why I got that in the first place was because I didn't have the strength, or at least my back didn't have the strength to hold itself in place when I needed it. And obviously, like, repetitious movements from the job that I had at the time, that was a big contributor as well. But I'm sure that would have been avoided entirely if I did, some deadlifts every now and then. And one of the biggest helps with the slip disc was actually deadlifting, which is huge, surprising. That was crazy to me. I thought it would make it worse when I started, but it did the exact opposite. My back felt great after a session. Obviously, you want to make sure that you have good form.
Of course.
Because if you don't, then speaking from from experience again, you can re-injure yourself.
Yeah, and that was
pretty easily.
that was a rough day. We went a little too heavy on the deadlifts, and this guy's one of his discs in his spine slipped out. I think that's what happened, right?
Yeah.
So terrible. You make sure you're doing deadlifts properly, people. They're
literally anything properly.
Yeah. I mean, most lifts, that involve your back, you really have to be careful and make sure that you're keeping your back straight. Make sure that you're not leaning over too much. There are a lot of things to look out for specifically for a deadlift. If you don't think that you're doing it right, then go really light. You don't want to be that guy whose back is all scrunched up and you're doing deadlifts wrong.
Banana back, as they call it.
Banana back, exactly. And then you get, and then your back gets jacked up because you're not doing it properly. But the reason that Atle here was able to do them successfully for so long is because his form was good, and this is a reason that you should always have a spotter at the gym too, because I don't think that I was watching. I think that I had just gotten done with a set and I was like, oh man, I was puffing and puffing, like, I'm gonna leave. Okay, I need to just go and walk. Yeah, I had too much confidence. I didn't want to. You gotta spot people. It doesn't matter how experienced they are. You have to have a spotter.
Yeah.
You really should have
Pros
someone there.
Can still hurt themselves.
Exactly. And Atle and I are not pros.
Yeah,
so
not by any standard,
it just goes without saying.
We're just experienced.
Exactly. We're just experienced. That's it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the sort of stigma. I'll tell you guys a story to start this off with. We had a mutual friend who we were trying to get into lifting. You know exactly where I'm going with this. And I'm not going to name any names. This guy's a really good guy. He's definitely found his way in life. But he was afraid that if he started lifting with us, and I quote, that he would become a jock. And so he
the sin.
Mm-hmm, it was so obviously his idea of somebody who was kind of overly arrogant, overly vain, that's what he saw happening to himself if he started to get fit. And I've actually been surprised to find out that a lot of people think this way.
It's so very confusing too, because like we don't we don't go around and like start crapping on people's car or anything.
Yeah, it's not like we just go around.
We think they're soy boys or something.
And that's funny to joke about, but that's the thing, man. We're considerate. I would say even compassionate people. We're not going to go and just dump on people because they're not fit or they're a little overweight. That's stupid. I want all of these people to improve and make their lives better so that the world can be a better place.
Well, that's kind of the main reason why we did this podcast in the first place, was because we just want to try to help people from our experiences
and spread the good word, because we've been I think we've both been in places where we have had really bad misconceptions about particular activities, particular ways of thought. There have been a lot of I had a period of time for a couple of years where I wasn't working out at all and I wasn't eating well at all. I had a terrible mindset. I wasn't taking responsibility for anything in my life, and I would harp on exercise so much because it was what pulled me out of that.
Right.
You remember that we just first started hanging out at that point, and I was in a very terrible place, to save you guys the long story. But all I had to do was start lifting, start creating things. I started writing some crappy piano music, and it was just fun. It was making something. But mostly it was the exercising, because we just we started to become really strong and noticeably strong really, really fast. And that felt awesome because you had a sense of achievement. You had a sense of fulfillment that was beyond any regular run-of-the-mill happiness that you could even ask for. So I was fulfilled. I wouldn't say that I was in a happy, joyous, unicorns and ponies prancing everywhere type of place.
Like you said, it's kind of a journey. You go through this process, but just the idea of lifting is a really good example for us, at least, because we could see the development as it happened. 1 week we'd be lifting, we'd be deadlifting like 315, and then the next week we'd be deadlifting 350, and it would just go up incrementally, and it feels amazing seeing that improvement, without anything else. It's just your willpower making this happen.
Exactly.
And then you realize that you can take that same mindset and apply it to anything else in your life. I mean, it's obviously probably going to be a little bit more complicated than picking something heavy up, but
of course, yeah. But one great point that I'd like to make, and I'm a huge fan of a guy named Jordan Peterson. I've actually, my journey began with my wellness journey began with listening to a Jordan Peterson podcast and realizing, oh man, I need to change a lot. I got to get my act together, is something that he always says. It's a good saying. He likes to make this this sort of metaphor. He uses a particular example. So he likes to say that the more competent you are at more things, the more confident you are in general. And so basically, the higher you are on a particular competence hierarchy, so if you're good at lifting and you are fit, then you're high on that competence hierarchy. And then if you try new things and get good at them too, then you get more and more confident, you stand up straighter, you feel more fulfilled as a person. I don't see any downside to that. You should, at least what I would recommend to the listeners is to find something that you like to do and get really good at it. And that could be anything. It could even be video games. I've had a sense of confidence from being really good at a video game, and I'm like really, really good at a video game, being high on the ranking ladder. And I'm like, heck yeah, I'm really cool. But you also have to have other things that kind of fill out the rest of your life. And so what I mean by that is that you should have something that covers your physical well-being, something that covers your emotional well-being. So if, for example, you want to be really good at socializing, just go out and practice. All you have to do is get better. You'll become more fulfilled as you get better at whatever the activity is. And we're talking specifically about exercise, but that was the one thing that really propelled us forward, because it's sort of a meta skill. You get good at exercising and you do that more, and your mind is more clear. You're able to think more clearly. You're able to focus on a task more easily, and you have more energy to get things done. And so if you want to become really good at something, exercise is a good place to start. It's a great foundation.
And I mean, even if your job is like physics or something like that, if you do some exercise, you get more blood pumping to your brain, you just think better. Like
Exactly.
that was a big thing for me, especially like I love physics, and I'm not gonna go on any tangents.
We'll have an episode for that, definitely.
Sure, why not? I mean, I do love talking about it, but I did not make anywhere near as many leaps in physics and in my idea process as I did since, I mean, like before we started working out, and then after we started working out, it was like a night and day difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you remember how the conversations between the two of us were changing. And so I was going through a big life change at that point. And so before we started exercising, my feelings even were really convoluted and they were hard to work out. And we literally started exercising for about a week, and I realized exactly how I felt in this situation. I was able to work out my thoughts and get my act together much more easily, just because I had the energy to do so and I had the clarity of mind. So but going back to the whole vanity thing, I think there is something to be said about the difference between arrogance and confidence.
Yeah.
So you can be confident and proud of yourself for becoming good at something, or for having big muscles. Let's say that you've reached your goals in the area of musculature, however you want to put that. And some people look at someone who is fit and they just think, this guy's a jock, this guy's a jerk. I don't think I told you this, but my girlfriend thought I was a douchebag when we were on our first date. Her first impression from my Tinder pictures, we met on Tinder, was that I was going to be just some jerk of a guy, and it was just because I had like a fairly fit body, and and we met, and she was pleasantly surprised because I didn't end up being a complete jerk. I'm not a jerk because I have big muscles. Jerks are going to be jerks with or without the muscles, right?
Yeah, so I've met some flabby jerks before.
Exactly. So it's just
mostly, in fact, you meet more flabby jerks than you do the opposite, because I guess they're just self-conscious, which is, I think that's more of like the symptom than the cause. It almost seems like, I almost feel like a lot of those people that do have low self-esteem would just be better to the people around them if they just felt better about themselves. And fitness is a great philosophical standpoint, like cornerstone to start with, like you were saying, especially like just for self-betterment in general. If you just want to be more successful, then, working out or running or whatever your forte ends up being, and you end up, looking better, feeling better about yourself, you're better with people around you, and you'll just become more successful as a result of being better with people. It's kind of like having your cake and eating it too. You feel good, and you're also getting like, all your dreams coming true. All your dreams coming true.
Right. So it's kind of like how meditation is a meta skill. It's supposed to improve all aspects of your life, just incrementally. Just a little bit. So
this isn't something that happens overnight by any means. It's a lifestyle change.
It is actually kind of funny though, because when you do start exercising, as long as you don't overdo it and you're not just disgustingly sore, let's say you start at the gym. I have that problem. So if I do a lot of body weight stuff for months and then I go back to the gym, I overdo it the first time because I think I can do this much. But
you kind of have to pace yourself, because if you're over sore by the end of your workout, then you gotta take a step back, because that's a big problem. If you can't recover by the time you need to work out again, or like go to work, then that's just that you're gonna have a bad time.
I did this. I remember specifically in junior high school, I did this squat workout. It's called Tabata workout. It's a type of HIIT training. So I did Tabata squats, and I wasn't even using a lot of weight. I think I was just using the bar, but basically you just do as many squats as you can for 20 seconds, and then you rest for 10 seconds, and you do that 8 times. So it's only for 4 minutes, and you think like, that ain't shit. There's no way that is going to make me sore at all. Well, I actually couldn't walk the next day. Yeah. So when I say I couldn't walk, I mean I literally was walking around all stiff-legged, and if I bent my knees at all, I would do the whole spaghetti leg thing, the spaghetti noodle legs.
Like you just got kissed by the love life. Oh, geez, it looks like we had some technical difficulties there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, computer locked up. Whoops.
First time jitters. First time technical difficulties.
We'll definitely work that all out as it goes along. I'm sure everything will get more structured. We'll get into a workflow, all that good stuff. But so where were we fitness wise?
You were talking about the noodle legs from overworking.
All I was saying is that I was the most sore I'd ever been in my life, and I actually wasn't able to go to track practice later that day, and so I was out for a week because my legs didn't work. And so, if you think about it, you can go really hard during your workouts, but it's much better to work at maybe 80% maximum, so that you don't completely burn yourself out and that you can actually exercise consistently. There's this guy named Eddie Bravo who made this point that you want to let's take this example. Okay, so if you burn yourself out on power cleans, I'm going to do an extra heavy 90% of my max on power cleans, and I do 30 total power cleans, 3 sets of 10. So is that guy going to be better at power cleans, or the guy who went 60% and could do power cleans every single day of the week? So he's practicing 5 times as many, let's say, power cleans during the week, but this guy's legs are too sore because he went way too hard, but his weight was only a little bit higher. So who's actually better off? The guy who did 150 power cleans this week, or the guy who did 30 slightly heavier power cleans?
Yeah, I mean, and any expert will tell you it's all about volume, the amount of volume you do throughout the week.
Exactly.
You could still lift relatively light if lifting is kind of your niche. You can lift relatively light, and as long as you get that volume, then that's basically what you want. You want the pump, as they call it. If you're going for more of hypertrophy, obviously if you're going for strength, which for most people they're going for hypertrophy, so we'll just kind of stick with that. You don't have to lift a lot of weight. Just getting the movement down and feeling the pump in the muscle that you're targeting and that you're focusing on is really kind of what you're going for. And like you were saying, overdoing it is just overdoing it. You're not going to see any major results off of doing that. In fact, in most cases, you're going to have a step back, which is more of a hormone thing. You deplete your testosterone from overdoing it, and increase the amount of cortisol in your system, which cortisol is kind of the antithesis of testosterone. So you won't see anywhere near as much results unless you are already conditioned to work that hard.
Exactly.
Like an athlete or something like that.
Well, for the normal person too, so all of the things that you listed, plus just the fact that you're going to be really, really sore, and you can't tell me that you can go 100% the next day. Right?
Yeah.
You can't go 100% the next day just like you did the day before. It's not going to work that way because you're going to be really, really sore, especially 2 days after your workout. For those of you who haven't done any crazy exercise, you go through this kind of soreness cycle which lasts about 4 days, and it's the worst after 2 days.
At least when you start.
Yeah, when you start out, it's not like you're a complete wreck after every workout. If you've conditioned yourself and you're getting to the point where you're getting really used to your workouts, then your body gets used to it, and you aren't horribly sore after every workout.
And that's one of the main reasons to just not overdo it.
Exactly.
Just start off with incrementally, and that is a great thing in itself, because then you can kind of keep up with your progress personally. But at the same time, it's also important to keep in mind to not underdo it, because then you won't see any results after a certain amount of time. Like, let's say you're eating right, you're cutting out like soda and you're drinking water instead, and you're staying hydrated, you're having a high protein diet, and then the only thing you're not doing is, lifting enough, like having enough volume. In those cases, you won't really see as much of a benefit from it as you would like. But in the case of like weight loss, you can still see a lot of improvement, especially if you're just doing like a lot of cardio kind of stuff, which I'm kind of on the fence about. I know you're not quite as much as I am. I personally don't think that too much, or like a certain amount of cardio is really healthy for a person, just because it can kind of mess with your hormones at a certain amount, a certain volume of.
Oh, if you do too
cardio.
much, yeah, definitely.
But that's one of the reasons why we really like to suggest weight training and like yoga for people, is because they're both really good ways to not only make yourself feel better and to make yourself look better, but also they're really good ways to kind of like level out your hormones, because both of them kind of help you produce more of the healthy kind of hormones. And this is a really big thing. A lot of people have a misconception about testosterone specifically. They think that testosterone will, make them go bald and, have genital problems, and, the list goes on.
Excessive chest hair, yeah.
Right. Which that is kind of true. There's multiple types of testosterone. The type you're thinking about, if you are under this impression, is a type of testosterone. Help me out here. I think it's DHL testosterone.
I think so. We'll have to double check on that.
Something. No.
It's a type of testosterone.
Yeah, it's the bad testosterone. Well, for the sake of argument, we'll just call it the bad testosterone. Dun dun dun. And that's the kind of testosterone that will increase your body fat percent. It'll decrease your muscle tone. It'll eat away at your hair follicles.
That's the one that makes you go bald, and
it basically just messes with every part of your body. And the only real reason why your body produces this stuff in the first place is to basically keep you alive, like under extreme circumstances. But this stuff still produces in your body if you don't treat it right. Like if you don't, that's why you see a lot of people with these types of health problems that are because of their hormones. It's because they're just not doing anything to kind of help their body fat percent. They're not really doing anything to dietary wise to really help them to right. do them any favors, basically. So it just kind of goes on this roller coaster ride, and then their body ends up creating this type of testosterone, this bad testosterone out of necessity, and it ends up doing a lot of harm physically. But the type of good testosterone, the good stuff that you really want, is produced from lifting and from doing yoga. Just being active in general, you'll produce it normally, and even sleeping properly will produce this type of testosterone. Most people just call it testosterone, but there's different types of good testosterone, like free testosterone, for instance, which we were talking before. Doing like leg training and squats and stuff really releases a lot of this good testosterone, because a lot of it is produced like in your gonads and in your lower extremities. So doing a lot of the leg training actually helps release more of it, which you might think that that's unhealthy, but no, your body produces it for you to use it, so you might as well.
Exactly. So, actually, you mentioned something earlier about bad testosterone, which, there are a lot of health problems that come with not exercising, and that doesn't mean you have to actually go. I don't mean exercise like you have to go to the gym religiously. I just mean not being active at all.
Like I was saying with my routine that I have right now, it's all at home. I just have the punching bag and a few dumbbells, and I'm it's G2G, brother.
Yeah, and then you're solid. There is an issue with leading a completely sedentary lifestyle, and everybody, you have this just shoved down your throat all throughout health classes, even in high school. You hear about it on different news sites even. You know that there are a lot of problems that come with being overweight, and some people actually have genetic conditions that make it so they're predisposed to being a little bit larger. Okay, fine, not including those people, but everybody else, if you're getting to the point where you're pre-diabetic, or you're so obese that you can't walk up to the second floor of your house, that's a problem. It's a little bit, I mean, it kind of feels bad to call out these sorts of people, but if you know that you need to fix something, then just fix it. Go just put in a little bit of effort every single day. Go on a walk. Stop eating complete garbage. Try and sleep better as much as you can. Sleep's really important. But it's all about just making healthier habits and making sure that you stick with them. And I think that it's motivation enough to say, hey, I might live an extra 7 years because of this, or even better, I don't have to pay for insulin. That's getting expensive, right? I mean, you don't want to be diabetic if you can help it. If if you have the type of diabetes, I think it's type 2 diabetes that comes from just a terrible sedentary lifestyle and a bad diet, then do what you can to fix it. You're in control, because no one can make you exercise.
You're the master of your own destiny.
Unless you join the military or something, then they can really make you exercise. But that's completely different. Normal people, it's not a lot of people will just outright tell you, hey, exercise will change your life. So what do you think is a good way to summarize this podcast? So if you had to condense it down to like 2 sentences, what would you say to the viewers that don't want to, or the listeners that don't want to listen to this whole thing?
Well, I would quote you. I would say, first sentence, exercise will change your life. Second sentence, brother.
See, I think that's absolutely perfect. So really, this episode was all about exercise, and we'll be talking more about this later. We've got a lot of topics to cover as far as just general wellness. We want to make as many people aware of the different habits that have changed our lives. So this has been the Ace Commander podcast. Thank you for listening in.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was fun.
Yeah, it was really cool. Thank you for joining me today, Atle. Thank you to all of our listeners.
Thank you for joining me too.
And we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.